Hi everybody and welcome to the Disney Q&A. This is the series in which you all send me questions about Disney regarding the parks, the history, the movies, things like that, and I try to give answers to the best of my abilities. Some are about the history, some of them are just my opinions, and as always we are in the Minecraft recreation of Disney World, and this is a special episode because normally I have a big group of people following me and we're around on the live public servers, but today I am actually on the yet-to-be-opened new Epcot. The MC Magic crew is in the process of completely rebuilding Epcot using all new blocks, using new tools to keep it as close to a 1-to-1 scale ratio as possible. And before it's been open to the public, they let me wander around a bit. So I'm just wandering around and taking a look at this park that some point soon in the future, you'll all be able to go explore and check out. And I've seen some of the rides in action, and they are insane. Like, you would think they were doing this with a whole new version of Minecraft, which I guess technically speaking 1.8 they are. But enough about that. Let's dive right into the questions. This week I've got a ton of questions, so I'm going to try and split them up into some lightning round questions with faster answers and then some more drawn out answers. And let's dive right in with a nice question here from Arctic Elephant, who asks, do you think Disney made too many sequels between 1994 with The Return of Jafar to 2007 with Cinderella 3, A Twist in Time? Is that third one real? There's a Twist in Time Cinderella? I've never heard of that one. I knew about all the others, but oh man, that sounds like a joke title. And I guess if that doesn't answer for you, yeah, my answer is yeah, I do think they did. And that was an era that I think you saw started under Eisner, and this is towards the end of his time at the Disney company. And this is one of those decisions that you can attribute to, being a really bad decision on his part. It's interesting because I think a lot of it comes from this surprise as to how the home video market would do. Early on, when they first stepped in, they talked about the idea of putting Disney classics on VHS, and Disney was actually very against it. They thought it would just cheapen those movies. This was a point where like every 7 or 10 years they'd re-release them in theaters, and they thought if people could just buy them, then why are they going to come to the theaters? They're going to watch it whenever they want. It's going to lessen that brand. And they were convinced to do it. Eisner really pushed for it, and they started doing it with lesser classics. So they do it with something like Pinocchio rather than Snow White, and they sold really, really well. They made a lot of money, and this helped because Eisner's plan early on was this idea of this 20% growth year after year with the company, and it helped them do that. And so I wonder if he became so enamored with the idea of a home video market that eventually the idea became, well, we're out of all these classics to put out. Let's start putting out sequels direct to video. And, you ask what was my favorite in this question, but I haven't really seen any of them, so I can't really comment on the quality. And that's because, honestly, I think most of these don't need sequels. Now, I've heard some of them are good, some of them are bad. They're as bad as, a direct-to-DVD sequel sounds like it would be. But I've just never felt the need to watch any of them. I've always felt like the movie that they're sequel to had a nice complete ending. For me, when it comes to sequels, I'll watch them when I feel like there's a need for it or it's time for it. And I've yet to reach a point where I need to see another Aladdin or I need to see a Cinderella 3. So I don't really have a favorite, but I do think that was a little too much. And once John Lasseter stepped in, he pretty much, cut a lot of those projects. And now they still do sequels, Cars 2 and Toy Story 2 and 3 and things like that. But at least they're theatrical films. They're given the attention that a regular film would be given. They aren't just thrown out there to pull in more money. Next question comes from Minecraft Rides, who asks, I was looking at a concept map of Shanghai Disney. I saw an attraction called Horizons could be coming to Tomorrowland. Do you think this will be like the old Horizons? And of all the animated Disney films that have not yet been made into an action film, examples Sleeping Beauty was made into Maleficent, which would you want an action film out of the most? So for your second question, there are no cartoons that I really want to see in action film. I would love to see them revisit some older titles and sort of breathe new life into them. And when I say some, I mean one. And when I mean one, I mean The Rocketeer. Oh my goodness. Disney, just please reboot The Rocketeer. I think that would be so cool. And in today's world where, superhero movies do really well, I think there could be a place for a Rocketeers franchise. And I think the 90s just wasn't that time. And now we're at a time where we could pull it off. And I think it'd be really cool. And I want to see them try and do that. So I know that's not the question you were asking, but I just needed a moment to talk about The Rocketeer. As for your first question, I actually haven't looked into this yet. I want to look into this. I'd be a little surprised and disappointed if it was just like Horizons or a revamp of Horizons. As much as I love Horizons, I am also a fan of the idea that, we leave the past behind us and we look on to new things. And maybe if it's a spiritual successor of Horizons and it embodies the themes of Horizons but is completely new in every other way, then maybe I would be excited about that. But I'm really hoping that's not the case. And I would be surprised from a business perspective if that's what they did, because ultimately, when you think about it, part of the reason Horizons closed is because nobody really wanted to ride it anymore. And yeah, there's a small subset of like super fans who love it and would love to see it come back, but they're not very representative of the general public. So, they're building this new Disneyland. They're going to want rides that people, the general public, are going to want to ride. So it seemed very bizarre and backwards for them to put some sort of Horizons reboot in there. Great question though, by the way. And that's a good question for you guys. What would you like to see turned into an action movie? And why is the correct answer The Rocketeer? Let's jump on over real quick to one of these lightning round questions. The Cardiac Kid says, do you think Disney might someday expand Tomorrowland? I feel that Tomorrowland is a great concept for a land which deserves a lot of expansion. Yes, I do think someday. I don't think it'll be anytime soon because they just did Fantasyland. But now that you've got Tomorrowland the movie and that could turn into a franchise, I could totally see them expanding that part of the park and part of the parks in general. Adventureland, maybe when the Jungle Cruise comes out and becomes a big movie. But when? Probably not anytime soon. Next lightning round question comes from Catherine Glick, who says, do you think Disney will partner up with MAC Cosmetics for any princess movie like they did for Cinderella? Thanks and have a magical day. Possibly. I feel like with those sort of partnerships, you see them as one-offs because if you do it too many times, it just loses the appeal and the novelty. But can I see them partnering up with a company like that? Sure. And I think that'd be fine so long as it doesn't border too much on just being cliche. Like, princesses, makeup. Don't girls like makeup? There's plenty of product placement that is really shallow and doesn't really make a statement. So as long as it's something like that and it's not really trying to push this idea that, because it's a princess movie, it should, be about makeup, then sure, go for it. But I don't know if we'll see it happen again. Next question comes from Jim is Awesome 51617, who says, what are your thoughts on the Good Dinosaur trailer? To me, it looks like a slight step down from Inside Out, but still awesome. Also, do you think the Good Dinosaur could be a good theme for Dinoland USA at the Animal Kingdom for refurbishment? Thanks and have a magical day. I don't think it was a step down from Inside Out. I think that was a teaser trailer. It was very short, an introductory trailer. I think if you go way back and look to the very first introductory teaser trailer for Inside Out, it was equally as shallow, short, didn't really tell you anything about it. It was just there to sort of introduce the concept. And, I think we should give them the benefit of the doubt. We should wait and see what they've got cooking. So I'm, with those trailers, especially with Pixar, where it's it's going to be a while since we see the movie, so I'm not in a rush to find out more about it. I'm all about finding out. Inside Out, I wasn't really excited for up until the weeks prior to the movie coming out. So, I'm holding judgment. As for the idea of it being a good theme for Dinoland USA, please, yes, thank you. That would be fantastic. I think Dinoland USA in the Animal Kingdom is suffering from a real identity crisis. It doesn't know what it is trying to be. And a big part of that was because, the economy and Eisner and just a lot of different elements caused Animal Kingdom to not develop fully the way it was supposed to originally. And as a result, you have all these things thrown in there like Primeval World. That whole thing reeks of we just need to put stuff there quick. So yeah, if they can use that as an opportunity to retheme it, add some sort of central unified story and theme to it and just breathe new life into it, I'm all for it, even though we haven't seen the movie yet. Our next question comes from Creator for Parks, who asks, the Disney company seems to have a lot planned for 2016, like all the Animal Kingdom attractions, the Frozen ride, and then there's the Star Wars stuff you didn't mention. But yeah, Why do you think they're doing this? I mean, that's a real simple answer, and it's one that's going to be continued forever and ever, and which is they need to give people a reason to come back to Disney. And believe it or not, we're hardcore fans. We could probably go to the same exact Disney as it is now a million times and never get bored with it. But when you think of the general public, surprisingly, there are people who go once and they go, okay, I never have to go again. I went and I did it, and now why would I ever go back? I've experienced it. And that's crazy for us, but for, the general public, that's what they think about it. So Disney, as a way of combating that, needs to add new things, change, take out old things that aren't working, put in new things, so that when they ask themselves, why would I go back? The answer is, well, because there's all this stuff I haven't seen yet. And there's all this technology that I haven't been able to experience. And that's why they do stuff like that. And they're a company that's in a good position for growth right now. They've got all these great assets. Their stock's doing really well. They're in a good place to spend money to improve these parks so that it will pay them back later on down the line when they've got a better experience for guests. Let's go to some lightning round questions. Anna B asks, knowing that you've gone to Disney World multiple times, I was wondering if you can navigate one or more parks without a map. Have you ever thought you knew where you were going and have forgotten lost before? Thanks and sorry for the very random question. Yes, I totally can. I mean, I grew up going to these parks, and I was always, when I was a little kid, my parents would give me the map and let me navigate, and partially I think that's why I can navigate a map pretty well, hopefully. But also, yeah, I feel like I know the parks like the back of my hand. And actually, when we read this question, Christina and I read this when we were like prepping for a top 3, and we thought this would be a really fun series. So keep an eye out. I think we're going to try something where like we set up a map and we clear it of all identifiers and we make that person try and fill in as much as they can to test their knowledge of the park. Sort of like a, labeling all the states sort of trivia, something like that. So we have to work on that and make it happen. But fantastic question, and it might spawn a cool little mini series. Have gotten lost? No, but there have been parts of the parks where on MC Magic I go and I realize like, oh, I didn't know you could go here in Disney, and I never thought to go here because I never did. For instance, if you go to the end of San Francisco in Hollywood Studios, it's sort of, there's a space there and you can go left or right towards like the very back. Never knew that because we'd always look over, hey, look, there's San Francisco, and then we keep walking. I just saw that was a dead end. I didn't realize it curved around the back. So there are parts I didn't know about because I never visited, but like if you asked me to get from A to B and didn't give me a map, I could probably do it. Yeah. That wasn't very much of a lightning round question. Next one, Ron Perez, do you think there should be Matterhorn bobsleds in the Animal Kingdom? Thanks to have a magical year. No, I don't think there should be. It's got Expedition Everest and Disneyland's got the Matterhorn, and I think it's fine that they each have their own separate thing. I don't think we need to have every ride in every park. Our next question comes from Jacob Schmidt, who asks, what is your opinion on the announcement with the details of the Frozen ride? So if you haven't heard, they released more details about the Frozen ride coming out. I believe it's called Frozen Ever After or something like that. And it's a boat ride. It's replacing the Maelstrom. It's going to be about 4 minutes long, I heard. It's going to sort of relive scenes of the movie without retelling the story of the movie. There's going to be an animatronic Olaf. There's going to be all these magical parts. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff. It sounds interesting. I mean, there's one really cool piece of concept art, and I'm excited. I was also excited to hear that Oaken's Trading Post is going to be in the queue, and it looks neat, and I'm excited for it. It's a shame I'm going to be at Disney this fall, so I'm not going to get to see it. It'll be coming out next year at some point. I'm one of the people who loved the idea. I think, and you know what? I know this will draw a lot of hate from really old school Disney fans, but I think the Maelstrom was like desperately needed to go. I think it was long overdue to close the Maelstrom. It was an old attraction. It's fun at this point, I feel like, was completely derived from the irony of like, wow, look at this super old cheesy ride. You're going through oil rigs and all of the Norway trolls. And I think the people don't like change. And I think people don't like how popular Frozen has gotten. And I think the two combined has made there a lot of backlash on this announcement. But I'm all for it. So many people are going to go to World Showcase now once this ride opens. And even if, they go to World Showcase and they go, wow, that line's 2 hours long. Let's go check out this pavilion over here. And they weren't going to go there before. Like, they might get to explore World Showcase in a way that they weren't going to originally because they were pulled there by this Frozen attraction. So I'm all for it. And I'm all for evolving the purpose of World Showcase. A lot of people don't like it because technically, even though it's based on mythology, around that region, it's not about that region. But, Disney's meant to change, and I think the themes are meant to change, and we've seen that happen in many places in Disney World and Disneyland. And so if World Showcase needs to change a little bit to stay with the times, I'm all for that. Next lightning round question comes from Natalie, Nat Dancer, who says, if you could visit any Disney park anywhere in the world, which would it be? Also, what is your opinion on when people think that movies, for example, Despicable Me, Anastasia, All Dogs Go to Heaven, are Disney, but they actually aren't? Thank you and have a magical day. For your first question, I would love to go to Disneyland Paris. I'm assuming this is a magic question where I don't have to pay for the trip, so I'm going to assume Disneyland Paris or one of the international Disneys that I would probably can't afford to go to right now. Tokyo Disneyland, I think would be cool, but Disneyland Paris just for their version of Future World. As for your second question, I don't mind it. I find it amusing. Hardcore Disney fans going to know what Disney is making and what Disney isn't, but like your average moviegoer is not going to keep track of that. And it's probably flattering for Disney that all these other films make movies that are so similar in style and tone that they could be mistaken for Disney movies. Like the Anastasia one, all the time is considered. There's like, oh, isn't she a Disney princess? Like, no, she's not. But it doesn't really bug me. I don't know. I find it hard to get angry about stuff like that or get annoyed by stuff like that. I just find it a little bit amusing, I guess. And Bowie Badger asks, with the new World of Color type show, Avatar Land and the park being open a little bit longer in the summer, Animal Kingdom looks like it will become somewhat of a night park. What are your opinions about Animal Kingdom having night entertainment? I think it's great. Animal Kingdom to me is the, redheaded stepchild of the parks right now for me. And that's just because I don't think there's enough content there to keep me there for a full day. And that doesn't mean that I think it should be ignored. On the opposite, or on the other hand, I think they should add content. And that's exactly what they're doing. And that excites me because I am a fan of these parks and growing them and changing them. And everybody always asks me, what would a fifth gate be in your mind? And my answer is always, there would be no fifth gate because there's so much space and stuff and work that needs to be done on the 4 that exist already that we don't need a fifth one. So if they can develop this more and make it a full day park and give it night stuff to do that isn't animal related since they're all asleep, then I am all for it. Let's see. Our next question comes from Sarah DeCusion, who says, Disney opened a Marvel store called Superhero Headquarters, not Marvel's Superhero Headquarters. Do you think this is from Universal being able to have Marvel attractions as long as they like, and Marvel in the title of a store would get them in trouble? What do you think? Is this Disney doing a little cheat without having Marvel in the title? We can't say one way or another, but my guess is, yeah, that's actually exactly what I think it is. I think that it's a legal loophole, but I think it's a little, unfair to consider it like a cheat because Marvel is something that at this point now, Universal and Disney are both profiting from greatly. And so you have to look at them less as competitors in this and more as like they both got really lucky. One was lucky enough to partner with Marvel. The other was lucky enough to buy them and do something with it. But there are those legal, contracts, and I'm sure Universal wouldn't love for them to start doing Marvel stuff in the parks. But if they can find a loophole like this, like leaving Marvel out of the name and just calling it something generic like a superhero headquarters, then yeah, I could see Disney going through with it for those reasons, and it seems like that might have been the case. Let's see. Our next question comes from Carson Brown, who asks, do you think a new update of Illumination's Reflections of Earth could be a good or bad idea? Also, would you use a few of the countries in the World Showcase that could go in the update? Yeah, I'm always for updating things. Like you just heard me on my little rant or rave about the Frozen ride. Like change it up, especially today we have the technology. I could go watch Illuminations on YouTube in 1080p, and yeah, I know it's not the same thing as being there, but because we can record these things and we can get them, archived for, later viewing, then I say let's try some new stuff, and I would be all for an Illuminations update. And I say that as somebody who loves Illuminations above all over other fireworks shows and parades and everything else at Disney. Other countries, sure. I don't know how it would work, but I'm all for more countries being used as well. Let's see. Our next question comes from Michael Blue, who asks, do you think that a Nintendo World store should go where the NBA restaurant is? Plus, have you ever been to a Nintendo World store in New York? Thanks. Have a magical day. P.S. Have fun at Disneyland. Thank you. I will. Do you mean where the NBA restaurant in Universal is now? Because there's an NBA thing in Universal that's supposedly closing, and then there's an NBA thing in Disney that's opening. If you mean Nintendo and Disney, wouldn't make much sense. They just partner with Universal. If you mean in Universal, absolutely. They just partnered with Universal. So I think that'd be a great idea. I have been to the Nintendo World Store in New York City. It's over by Rockefeller Center. I don't make my way out there too much anymore because it's a very touristy area, a lot of foot traffic. But it's funny, Christine from All the Top Threes, she used to work there for a little while. I bought my Wii there on opening day, camped out overnight with my buddy Steve for a Wii over in Midtown Manhattan in November. It was kind of a silly, crazy, stupid idea. But, whatever. I was in college and I didn't have anything better to do with my time, I guess. But it's a lot of fun. It's a cool store. If you're ever in New York, you're ever visiting, head over to, odds are if you're going to hit all the tourist hotspots, you're going to be near Rockefeller Center anyway. So swing on by the Nintendo World Store. It's not like an amazing, huge store. It is 2 floors. It is a pretty big store for something that's Nintendo only, but it's also like, you'll spend like 30 minutes there, and I think you'll get you'll see everything there is to see. They're really cool about doing events there. And when you go upstairs, there's almost like a little mini Nintendo museum with like some old handheld consoles, stuff like that. It's a cool place. And then our last question for this week comes from B-Fish Alex Imagineering, who asks, do you know if Eisner was for or against the idea of creating Walt's Epcot, and if he thought it would be financially savvy or not? If he had thoughts either way, what were they? And if not, what do you think his thoughts were on the idea? Number 2, I'm planning a trip to Disney World this fall and knew that you were talking about a trip in the fall as well. Could you let us know what exact dates you will be there so people can plan their trips so they can go and meet you in the parks? Thanks and have a magical day. So, for your first question. So, timeline-wise, Epcot had opened by the time Eisner took over, or it opened right around there. No, I think it opened. No, I'm pretty sure Epcot opened already. Because Epcot was, 82, and he stepped in 84. So really, on the record, I don't know if he had any stance as to Walt's version of Epcot, because I think that was abandoned long before, the theme park version was being built, and so it was before his time. That said, he's still around, so we could always ask him. We could always tweet him and see what he would think, but I don't think he would be for creating it. I think Walt's vision of the original Epcot was a very pie-in-the-sky vision for a city, and I think it was one that would have been really interesting to see happen, to see them try, but you needed a creator with that sort of vision to chase it, because I think when you look at all the numbers, it probably would not have been a financially smart decision. And you know what? That's fine, because you look at Walt's history, and every time he wanted to go out and do this project, this passion project of his, Roy would be there saying, like, this financially probably doesn't make a lot of sense. Whether that was a feature-length animated film with Snow White, which people called Walt's Folly before it came out. They thought it was going to fail and ruin him. Whether it's the idea of a Disney theme park, that was, oh man, he had to essentially create his own company to start working on ideas, because he couldn't count on Disney being able to do it, because it just didn't make sense. That was just a crazy idea at the time. And so who's to say, maybe people thought the idea of a futuristic city designed by Walt would have been also a crazy idea, but it could have also really worked like those other two things. But I don't think Eisner was that type of thinker. He was a brilliant businessman, especially towards the beginning of his time at Disney, and he was a very creative person, and I think that's why he worked so well with Disney. He had a really great eye towards film and what was a good film and a bad film, but I think the idea of a city like Epcot was something that even he would not have been. I don't think there's another person out there today, short of Elon Musk, who would be crazy enough and have the means enough to chase after something like Epcot. And Musk is a little busy with SpaceX and Tesla at the moment. So I don't think he would have been for the idea, just for those reasons alone. As for my trip to Disney, yep, I'm going to be at Disney. I'm going to be at Disneyland, and I'm going to be at Disney World. Let me pull up my calendar, because I don't remember dates at all. So the Disneyland meetup is going to be on August 22nd. It is a Saturday. That's where it's going to be me and Christine, and Keith Lappenegg is going to be there. He's going to be showing us around the parks. We're going to probably do a short little small meetup at some point that day. I don't have an exact time yet, but it'll be in Disneyland. and it'll probably be a lot of fun, I would imagine. I've never been to Disneyland. I'm really excited for it. And then when I'm get home from that trip and I'm sad because I'm not in Disney anymore, I'm going to another Disney because Christine and I are going to Disney World with a bunch of friends, and we're going to be doing a meetup on Saturday, September 26th. It's going to be in the Magic Kingdom. I don't have a time for that yet either. We're still trying to figure that out. Same thing. It'll probably be a short little small meetup. Maybe if the group's small enough, we could go on rides together, stuff like that. But we're going to play it by ear, and we're going to figure that out. So what I would really suggest is either one, follow me on Twitter at Rob Plays, because that's where all those details will definitely be going. And two, if you keep an eye out on the top 3 series that Christine and I do, that's when we've been giving updates on when we're going to have it and where we're going to have it. So that'll probably be where the final details are revealed or given out. And who knows? We're going to try and vlog while we're there in both parks. We're going to try and use Periscope to stream while we're there. It's going to do a lot of fun stuff. I'm really excited for it. Anyway, I want to thank you all for all your questions this week. They've been fantastic. You guys have been really great with the questions. Keep them coming this way. You can leave them in the comments below, or you could tweet them at me. I'm at Rob Plays. I want to thank you all for watching. Whatever you're doing this week, make the most of it, because it makes it that much better. And I hope to see you all next time for the next episode of the Disney Q&A. Bye, everybody.